So this second example consists of a rack and chain selector controlled using a macro, as we saw before. Rather than automating the macro, this time the producer can perform with it. Randomization, so I use a randomization device which is used to vary the incoming notes for the various configured scale devices, which we'll look at. And then each scale device is configured for a particular harmony, and each macro position is available using the numeric keypad 0 to 4. Now on the screen you can see some information about the random device, so there are a number of parts to this which we will look at inside the project in a moment. So things like chance, I've basically got chance set to 100, I have scale to 4 and also choices to 4. I'm not going to use the random mode, I'm going to be using the alt mode, and we'll run through it so you can hear some of the differences. And then I'll also be using the bidirectional mode, so notes can go up and go down rather than just merely do the add, which means that they will generally go up, and sub meaning they will go below, subtractive. This is the MIDI effect rack. As you can see, I have a number of selected kind of harmonies. I've got C minor, I have G, G minor, G sharp diminished, and then A minor. One of the things to kind of consider with this is that, much like with the previous example, that just because we're looking at it and preparing it in a kind of a top-down sort of mode, that doesn't necessarily imply that's the direction we should be using. So I'm going to try and sort of work through that. Again, we have the chain selector up here, and this time it's controlled via the macro. And instead of moving the macro via the mouse, which is what I'm doing at the moment, we're going to be able to use the numeric keypad. So 0 gives us this first one, 4 gives us this one here, which is A minor. And as you can see on the right hand side, you can see each of the scale devices sort of changing. So here we've got C, E flat, G and B flat, and you can see we've got a last sort of C at the end there. I'm going to show two different ways of this kind of working, because it will also give us, or will give you, lots of different kind of note-based outputs. So that's something that we need to kind of consider. Let's have a look at the MIDI file. The MIDI file is pretty straightforward. It's just all Cs. So what we then have is basically the chance of change is set at 100%. If the chance of change was set to 0, let's have a listen to that. You can see that the notes are only being Cs. If we make a little bit more, so now it starts to move around, even with quite low percentages. So we have fewer and fewer Cs now. Now it's moving into this arpeggiated pattern. So again, it's something to kind of change to taste. For this example, I've decided to just have it set to 100%. I'm going to go to 1, back to 0, which is C minor, back to 1, back to the G, now the G minor, G sharp diminished, and then the A minor. I'm going to try a different version now, so we're going to go A minor to G sharp diminished, back to A minor, and now to G, now G minor, and then C minor, back to G minor, G, and then go up to A minor. So that's kind of one of the ideas that we can sort of do. In a previous example, I showed a chromatic scale, so I thought it might be interesting to see what happens when where the notes are somewhat different. This is not necessarily a fantastic sequence of notes, but let's hear what it sounds like when it's just on the C minor. So we're going to see this kind of chromatic. So we get a very different quality. Let's listen to the original one where it's just C's. So we get a bit more of the regular kind of arpeggiated pattern. Now if I change the chance and reduce the chance, so now we just have a very stable pattern, even where we have notes that are not the ones that are necessarily to the key. Because of the way that the scale device has been structured, those notes are quantized. But as we increase the chance of change, we get a bit more movement. Okay, so let's listen to this by constraining. I'm going to go back to the single file, the single note. So when choices, 100% chance of change, choices are 1, choices are 2. Make the scale 2. So we're getting some interesting. So there's the possibility of kind of playing. This is interesting because you're getting that 3 against 2 or 3 against 4 type of sort of feel. So you've got 3 and 1. 4, 2, 3. So you can hear, by controlling this, we can introduce some a variety of changes. This is 5, so we can hear it extending further across the range. Let's do that one as 5. So we can hear we're increasing the possibilities. Let's constrain it. Okay, so I'm going to use the other file now.